except last Thursday because it was the last week of my internship and I was busy. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley Kareen and welcome to another video. Since I'm new and you don't really have quite a sense of what my, oh my god, if I bump into this closet door one more time, a sense of my reading taste, I figured that I would do kind of like a play on the mid-year freakout tag, but really just tier ranking every book that I've read so far in 2021, at least up till like June and then maybe the first week in July. Before we start, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for all of the really great and positive feedback you guys gave me in my first video. A lot of you guys said I looked really natural, which is great because I wanted to vomit. Let me quickly go through our categories. I didn't want to do like regular tiers, so I tried to come up with things that were kind of representative of the vibe I was going for. So at the top we have therapy. I mean, just so essential to your well-being. Can't go a week without it. Is that just me? It has changed you for the better. Next we have a good skin day. A good skin day is just a really great day. Was it that you didn't have alcohol? Was it that you were drinking your water, having your vegetables? It doesn't matter. All you know is you woke up and you had a good skin day. Next, we have running on a treadmill. You're exercising, something you told yourself you were going to do January 1st, but then it quickly fell apart, but today you're doing it. And after you're done, you're like, yeah, I needed that. I'm happy I did that. I mean, of all the things you could be doing in the moment, it's not like what you would really choose. It's not eating a cheesesteak. Then we have dry wheat toast. Prison food. I mean, you're not gonna starve, but like if somebody hands you a plate of that, they hate you. And then kindling. Self-explanatory. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's begin tier ranking. Okay, so first we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is another teen dystopian novel, except all the factions are organized by color. At the top of the hierarchy, you have the golds, and at the very, 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 very bottom, you have the reds. So this story is about a teenage boy named Darrow who lives in the red faction. Earth is falling apart, people need somewhere to go, and the reds have been selected, enslaved, to prepare Mars for the rest of the people. Darrow finds this out, he joins the rebellion, and he infiltrates the Golden Society. Darrow, he goes through like a Captain America-esque transformation. There's lipo, BBLs, nose jobs, all of that. He's a Kardashian. So the first quarter of this book, I really didn't know what was going on, and it was kind of a little clunky and you didn't really have a sense of where this was going. But then like a third into it, it started getting really good. It's fun, it's wild, it's action-packed. If anything, I will say that the character of Darrow is a little unconvincing as like the magical chosen hero who's for some reason so much more special than everybody else there, when, I mean, everything that's special about him came from a test tube. So it does make you wonder, like, is Darrow actually the chosen one, or is he just like the guy they picked at random who happens not to be a douchebag? I'm gonna put Red Rising at running on a treadmill. I really liked the action, I really liked the strategy, and I really just liked the concept, and I thought it was really well done. But I don't feel compelled to read the rest of the series. Like, I feel like it was a good reading experience, but I'm not like dying to get my hands on the second one. Next, we have The Hunting Party by Lucey Foley. So this one's about a group of old friends who low-key hate and or want to have sex with each other. They go on vacation to a secluded, isolated cabin in like the most wintry of wintry places. And then one of them kills another. The story is told from two timelines. You have everything leading up to the murder and then what happens after the body's discovered. I mean, it was as entertaining as it sounds. Very atmospheric. You get a lot of snowy, mountainy landscape scenes. It's just one of those books that you don't want to put down. Like, you will read this one in one sitting. It had some things that were predictable, some things that weren't. And it also taught me a valuable lesson about marrying someone that you actually like. And also not forcing friendships just because you've been friends for a while. Set yourself free. So we're going to put Hunting Party at a good skin day. It really was just a lot of fun to read. There were definitely parts that I felt were like useless, but overall I had a good time. Okay. Oh my god. His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This bitch. You have a self-loathing, kind of pathetic male English detective who's investigating a string of murders that all happen to be connected to his ex-wife. His ex-wife is a reporter and, surprise, surprise, an alcoholic due to a family trauma. I'm sorry, that is like my least favorite trope in thrillers. I've read about so many main female characters that are unreliable because they're alcoholics, because of a death in the family. People manifest trauma in other ways just besides sneaking shooters into their Louis Vuittons. Anyway, this is probably the worst book that I read this year. None of the characters were likable. Every twist was like pretty much laid out for you. And then I felt like the murders often took a back seat to like the chaotic relationship between the exes, but not chaotic in an interesting way, chaotic in a like, I'm gonna stay away from you and barely interact with you, but then spend all of my time reflecting on what went wrong in our marriage. And it was just boring. Oh, and then trigger warning, there's also some very intense but completely unneeded animal violence. So if that is not your cup of tea, skip this. I mean, skip it regardless. Skip it. If I hear that you read this book, Alice Feeney, His and Hers, kindling. Next, we have The Butchering Art by Lindsey Fitzharris. It's about a surgeon named Joseph Lister who revolutionizes surgery and like the first proponent of the idea that like bacteria and germs actually affect open wounds. And this was delightfully gruesome. I can't believe the way that they used to do surgery. No knowledge, just vibes and saws. Like, it's not funny, but like the way that like somebody would need an amputation and the patient would obviously be terrified because there was no anesthesia at the time, and they were going to be like sawing off their leg, and then they would have them in operating theaters where like dozens of people would come just to watch your leg get sawed off, and the person would understandably hightail it the hell out of there, and the doctors were just like, get it. I will put The Butchering Art in running on a treadmill. As far as nonfictions go, this was fine. I'm not like a huge nonfiction person, but I found it to be comprehensive and pretty entertaining, and the cover is beautiful. Next, we have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. All right, let's talk about this one. I can't even describe this plot. A man who can travel between parallel universes, and well, like not even parallel universes, but like parallel universes, but every city is a variation of London. You have Red London, White London, Black London, which out of context does not sound good. And one of the Londons tries to use dark magic to take over the other Londons. The writing in this was beautiful. Like, some of the descriptions that Schwab was able to come up with are some of like the most beautiful passages I've read in adult fantasy. The plot was fresh, the villains were cruel, but man, any single one of these protagonists could have died a violent, horrible death, and I would have just been like, if he dies, he dies. I think this book is the book that taught me I actually care about characters. Like, before I used to think that I was entirely plot driven, and this is the book that taught me that is a lie. I just made zero connection with the protagonists. I'll honestly put this in dry wheat toast. I just wasn't involved in the story. I just didn't feel anything for the story. I've spoken to some people who've also read it and who've like completed the trilogy and told me not to even bother reading the other two because it just doesn't get better. Okay, for this next one, I know there's a certain subset of people who are going to get violently angry about the way that I feel about this book. So I'm going to say this super quickly in hopes that the speed will kind of confuse them. This is The Hobbit by Tolkien. Tolkien? As sweet as this was, it just stretched on for way too long. And the dwarves just kind of stressed me out with their inability to do like anything intelligent on their own. The only reason that this story isn't 2 pages long is because like random characters are kind of thrown in to sweep them up and be like, oh my god, you dumb babies, let's go. I will put this at running on a treadmill. I'm happy I read it. Oh my god, let's leave it at that. Okay, next we have Brooklyn by, god, these names are kicking my ass. Brooklyn by Colm. Horner. Nothing happened in this book, nothing. Someone bet this author $10,000 that he could not write the most uninteresting story ever, and he earned every cent. God bless him. Kindling. Next, we have How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. A woman recovering from an abusive relationship and kind of swearing herself off of love for the foreseeable future accidentally falls in love with a one-night stand. Take what I say about this with a grain of salt, because I have yet to meet a romance who is able to thaw
my little black heart.
She was okay. I enjoyed the drama and the sex, but I did find like some of it silly and cheesy, which, I mean, duh. But as far as like the romance genre goes, I was entertained by this. I'll put this at, running on a treadmill? A good skin? I think a good skin day. That's a little generous. No, I'll leave it. Okay, next we have Everybody Always by Bob Goff. Yeah, let's do this one in 2 sentences. Religious man with extreme white savior complex, frequently pushes his family and friends into uncomfortable situations, and then writes a book. Dry wheat toast. Next we have The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. So this is the conclusion to the YA Truly Devious series, the murder mystery series. So I'm not going to say too much on this. I was so underwhelmed and disappointed by who the murderer ends up being. Also, the second book in this series was actually unnecessary. Like, this could have definitely been fit into 2 books. But the main character is cute, smart. She suffers from anxiety, and I was really able to relate to her. And I did love her group of friends and her support system around her. I think there's another book after this trilogy in this Truly Devious universe still, but nothing to do with like this original murder, and I am definitely going to read it. Like, these books are fun. I just didn't love the third one. I will put this on also running on a treadmill. Okay, oh my god. I feel like I just had a string of like iffy books. Sad. Okay, this is The Beloveds by Maureen Lindley. An older sister who isn't as well liked or as pretty as her younger sister develops an obsession with their childhood home. And after their mother dies and bequeaths it to the younger sister, the older sister plots to kill her and take it from her. This was very unnerving. I felt anxious reading this because like the main character is just obviously so unhinged, but then like the ending is just so flat, and she really just goes from like being like a compelling sociopath slash psychopath to just a woman who like needs to get her life together because this isn't cute anymore. I was totally rooting for the younger sister's death though, because the older sister really wanted it, and I'm a loyal friend. Kindling. Okay, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So a girl whose ability to see... We know how this is gonna go. So a girl whose ability to see ghosts nearly ruins her life. Actually, it does ruin her life. But she gets a reprieve in the form of working for a super secret society at Yale University. But when another girl gets murdered on campus, she can't let it go and launches her own investigation into the paranormal and mysterious circumstances of her death. Obvious disappointment. You start off really strong, and then you feel nothing for hundreds of pages until you get to the very end, and then it's like suddenly fantastic again. The investigation is just so boring, and the main character like elicits sympathy but not really a connection to her. And then the million other secret societies at Yale, like there's just too many of them, and they kind of end up being pointless. But don't get me wrong, the writing was still excellent. Running on a treadmill. Normal People by Salley Rooney. A masterpiece. If you're a fan of contemporary literary fiction and you haven't read this, it's an act of self-hatred. This book is about 2 particularly bright people, Connell and Marianne, and their on-again, off-again relationship starting in high school, lasting throughout college. Such a simple plot, but such a complex story. Every piece of dialogue that Rooney writes is so intentional and so laced with subtext. Even if you go through a period of like not liking who Connell and Marianne are in certain time periods, you never stop understanding them. This book tackles trauma, societal pressures, mental illness, the ways families can build you up and break you down, and just how to love someone truly but imperfectly. Just my compliments to the chef. Obviously, therapy. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. This is about an older, eccentric woman who lives in a small rural village in Poland. She's heavily into astrology and very outspoken against animal cruelty, which are 2 things that kind of make people in the village look at her sideways. No, not people. Men. In her town, people are suddenly murdered, And all of the signs point to these murders being committed by animals. But our main character is the only person who can see this. This was so great. It's half literary mystery, half musings of humanity and our place in the world, our place in the universe. Piece of dust just tried to get a little too close and personal. And you also get to see the effects of ageism and sexism within smaller communities. And a lot of young men just write our main character off. And don't get me wrong, she's nuts. But I don't like the way they talk to her. So I definitely recommend it. But I also really recommend that you read it in the winter months and get that like nice atmosphere. We'll put this under therapy. Now we have Legendborn by Tracey Deonn. This is the story of a young Black girl who's been dealing with the recent death of her mother. She goes to a junior college program at a university in North Carolina and runs into a secret society made up of the descendants of the Knights of King Arthur's Round Table. These descendants fight demons from another world that regular people can't see, and the demons are getting stronger and stronger. Our main character realizes that she has the ability to see these demons, and she competes to enter into the society. I gave this book 5 stars. It was undeserved. The writing was kind of juvenile and a little cliched, so that like there were sentences that I was finishing in my head before I actually read them because I had already just seen the same structure, the same word choice so many times in other YA books. The pacing was slow. It was very info dumpy about the Arthurian legends. However, I was incredibly moved by the treatment of Black history in America and how the author weaves that history into Arthurian history. There were character deaths that truly hurt me and some big reveals that I didn't see coming. So all in all, I'd given this 5 stars at the time because it had resonated with me specifically. But if like, I'm going to be honest, 3.5. So we are going to put Legendborn in a good skin day. Next, we have Atomic Habits by James Clear. A book about how to build habits to get your life together. Really good for people with ADD. Everything he said made perfect sense, and I even took notes, and then I never looked at them again. Running on a Treadmill. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. A woman rapidly running out of money agrees to apartment sit in the most gothic-looking but expensive and notorious building in New York City, where she discovers that every apartment sitter before her has mysteriously gone missing and signs point to her being next. Such a great premise, very dark and atmospheric. I really liked the mounting pressure on the main character to figure out what was going on before she went missing, but the ending wasn't what I thought it was going to be and also felt really rushed and disorganized. But it was okay enough for me to want to try Sager again. I was thinking Home Before Dark. Running on a Treadmill. The Whisper Man by Alex North. A copycat serial killer who targets young boys sets his sights on the son of a recently widowed and struggling single dad. This was chilling. Y'all should have seen my hand reaching to pick this book up. It's been a minute since a book has made me that nervous to look over my shoulder. The ending was but it was a really good ride. A good skin day. Stuart Turton, Devil in the Dark Water. This is a high seas adventure that takes place at the end of the 1700s. A ship on its way across the ocean, carrying a famous detective in chains and held in the brig? Is that what they call it? What's the nautical term for jail? Brig. Sure. For an unknown crime, with the detective's assistant, an evil governor and his wonderful wife and daughter, and a myriad of other secondary characters. The ship is targeted by a villain who they believe to be the devil himself. And the devil's plan is to sink the ship before it gets to its destination. It's up to the detective's assistant and his newfound friends to figure out exactly what's going on here and to save the ship before they're all killed. I truly had the most fun time reading this. Stuart Turton just really knows how to write like the most fun and fresh adventure. Towards the end, it kind of started to like not fall apart, but it definitely got weaker towards the end, which I feel like was the case with the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Like, I feel like the endings are the toughest part for him, but I think by the big reveal, it gets back on track. Therapy. Oh my God, this one. Okay, now we have Maxwell's Demon by Stephen Hall. This is the story of a failed author whose father happens to be one of the most celebrated authors of his generation. His father finds the son that he always wanted in his protege/assistant Andrew Black. To rub salt in the gaping daddy issues wound of our main character, Andrew Black writes one of the best books of all time and then disappears right off the face of the earth. Our author gets paid a lot of money to locate Andrew and bring him back, or more importantly, bring back any drafts of a new book he might have. And then from there, my brain turned to soup. This book takes a while to orient yourself inside of, but when the twists start coming, Lord have mercy, they start coming. I don't know if this is something that a lot of people are gonna like, but I really liked it. I'm kind of between A Good Day in Therapy. I don't think it was like, no, I think A Good Skin Day is it. Seventh Raven by David Elliot. This is my first novel told in verse, and if Mr. Elliot had his way, it would be my last. Two parents have 7 sons and are so desperate to have a daughter. They finally get her, except she gets super sick, and while she's on her deathbed, her father basically calls to the sky and says he hates his sons and will do anything he can to save his daughter. By some form of magic, his sons are then turned into 7 ravens, and this is the story of the daughter trying to turn her brothers back into people. Listen, this was just not good. Every point of view was the exact same. Like if I flipped to a page and I covered the name of who was talking, it would all be the same voice. Every obstacle the daughter faces is solved immediately. Like there will be a wicked queen and you'll get all this juicy imagery of how wicked the queen is. And you're like, oh wow, she'll probably give this young girl a run for her money. No, the daughter is just like, you're mean. And the queen immediately turns to dust. There were some beautiful lines in here, but overall just so uneventful. Kindling. All right. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not summarizing this one. Y'all know her by now. BookTube forced me into reading this, and I was just so disappointed. I mean, let's call this what it is. An advanced case of Stockholm Syndrome. I mean, your main character used to have regular sex back at home, and now that she's locked up and horny, she picks the hottest guy and she's just like, oh my god, I'm in love with you. Just silliness. Dry wheat toast. And then finally, Lakewood by Megan Giddings. I just spoke about this in detail in my reading vlog, so I'm also not going to summarize this one. She was meh, kind of kindling, kind of dry wheat toast. Kindling. Okay, so that is all I have for you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed getting a little peek into the things that I read. Don't forget to like, comment, and of course, subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every Thursday, except last Thursday because it was the last week of my internship and I was busy. But thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!